Hello, guys. Welcome. Dan Bradbury here. Welcome to this live episode of the Business Growth Podcast. My job is to connect with successful business owners and understand their strategies, thoughts, approaches, and philosophies so you can apply them in business. I think that Jim Rohn said it quite elegantly, which is your income will seldom exceed your personal development. I believe that if you want your business to grow, you as a business owner need to grow and enhance your skill sets. Sometimes we're talking about finance, hiring staff, training team. Sometimes we're just talking about how do you get the best out of yourself and maximize your performance. My guest on today's show is Jairek Robbins. If you don't know Jairek, he's a renowned performance coach and motivational speaker. He's the author of Live It, Success by Living with Purpose. Check it out on Amazon. Especially if you look at Amazon.com, that thing is just stacked with 5-star reviews. He coaches high performers to live a life of purpose, as well as running the Performance Coaching University training. It trains other people to live the life of their dreams. That's his standard bio that I just read off this script. Let me tell you what I know about this man. He's a stunning human being. At the end of the day, I think that Warren Buffett's business partner, Charlie Munger, was correct. And Charlie says, if you live long enough, most people get what they deserve. To paraphrase slightly, if you want to do better, you need to be better. And Jairek is a exemplary human being. Jairek and I go back, it must be 8-9 years. In fact, one of my claims to fame is, I believe, and Jairek, correct me if I'm mistaken here, I was Jarek's first international paid speaking gig.
That's true.
So personally, I'm going to take credit for his entire speaking career. Without me, he's saying he wouldn't have got anywhere. So Jarek's the real deal. And you're going to pick up numerous incredibly valuable things from this, I'm going to bet, that are going to significantly enhance your life. So, now, with that build-up, you better do a good job now, Jairek. Please give a silent, because we can't hear you, but loud welcome to Mr. Jairek Robbins. Woo, Jairek!
Well, thank you for that introduction, and thank you for everyone who's tuning in on the different platforms. We always appreciate it. And yeah, you were my first international speaking gig. I think I've shared the story with you. Literally 18 months or 13 months prior, I had quit a job at our family company. I decided to go out on my own. I started my own coaching business, and it was a coaching practice. It's not a business. It's a personal one-on-one practice. It's self-employment basically. And so I started that, and I went into it and wholeheartedly. And my hope and goal was that I'd be able to build the flexibility and lifestyle I wanted based around this self-employment opportunity that I took advantage of. And so I went for it, and I set up a little website, which I think you saw in the beginning. It was horrible. And I built it, and I was living in the front end of a house. I had 3 roommates and 2 curtains that didn't even match, and literally used everything I had learned or come across as far as business was concerned to build up a coaching practice from no clients to, I remember my very first client, who was a law firm over in London looking to increase their performance and time management skill sets as an office. And then I was able to take that and ramp it all the way up to 52 one-on-one coaching clients a month within 8 months. And so 8 months later, I had 52 one-on-one coaching clients. I had surpassed $100,000 in personal income or in business revenue at that point. And what was fascinating, I was sitting down being like, wow. I remember the day when I went and signed up 20 clients in one day at an event I went and spoke at with a partner of mine. And it was remarkable because all of a sudden I was like, wow, this is going to work out. And people always come back at me and they're like, really? I mean, you didn't think it was going to work? I mean, come on, you know a few people in the industry. And I was laughing. I was like, hey, just because it works out for one person doesn't mean it's going to work for you. and you see lots of people where a parent or a brother or a sibling or a child makes it and the parent's still struggling or the child's still struggling. And so there was an unknown there, and I went for it. And I think that's actually when you reached out to me, because you had heard that I made some gains in my business quickly. And I think you were at that point working with training people who had a service-based business on how to grow their business. And so you hired me to come out and share what I had done. And what's interesting, at the time, I don't think I was very aware of what I had done. But our mutual friend, Topher, explained it to me later, just a few years ago. He explained it to me, and he was saying that most people, when they're a very small business or self-employed, they have one of three things. Either they have a solid brand, a solid reach into the world, or a solid service they're providing. And I had a solid service because I had 6 years of training. I had 6 years of practice with over 1,000+ client sessions. So I had tons of great service. I didn't really have a reach at all. I mean, I had a couple hundred people in my email database, and I used Mac Mail to talk to them. I remember having my first conversation with a guy in Fusionsoft, and he's like, well, what do you use to mail your people? And I was like, Mac Mail? He started laughing. He's like, no, do you have an email list? I'm like, well, my friends and family. And he's like, oh, geez. I remember him setting me up. I think it was at your event, actually. He pulled me aside to show me how to set up in Fusionsoft and how to communicate properly with people. But then, so I really didn't have a reach at the time. I had a service, and I had a kind of a brand just based on the people I'd work with. But besides that, not much. And so what's interesting is I went out and found a partner who had a great reach specifically in Los Angeles, and we did an event together. We offered my service that I could absolutely really deliver with. We offered our co-brand together, which people trusted and liked because they knew her for a while, and then her reach, and together that's what helped me go from 3 to 5 clients a month to all of a sudden 20 clients in a day, just like clockwork. And we were able to repeat that multiple times over every 3 months.
I love it. I love it, buddy. So there's so many routes that I want to go down and so little time. So I'm going to start off with a massive global question. If you had to simplify your philosophy of life to one sentence, Jairek, what would it be?
Sure. It's right up here. If anyone's watching on video, it's learn it, live it, give it. And it's learn what it takes to really have the life you desire and deserve. And you got to learn what it takes. I mean, most of us, when we go out and we graduate from school or we leave home for the first time, back in the day, it used to be 16, 18 years old, maybe 15. Nowadays, it might be 34, 35, 45 when you leave home for the first time to go out into the world and see what's out there. But for most people, when you go out into the world, when you're young, you believe you know everything about life. And you totally are going to go out and become a billionaire and change the world and save, seals, dying seals on the beaches from whales and all kinds of crazy stuff. And we believe we're going to do it. And we believe we're going to be the healthiest person that's ever crossed the path. We're going to be the strongest, the smartest, the hardest working person out there. And then we get a dose of life. And normally within that first so many months, we look around and we're like, oh, shoot, it's not exactly what I thought it was going to be. Or all that knowledge I have no clue how to actually use it. And so at some point we have to step back and go, holy smokes, how do I actually succeed in whatever area I'm focused on? How do I get the health I really want? How do I, find the person I want to date or actually date them successfully? How do I make the kind of revenue or grow a business or make a business that I want? How do I pay my rent? How do I do all this stuff? And in that point, the reason I say learn it is you have to go educate yourself. You have to figure out where's the best place to learn the knowledge that I really need. Now, way back in the day, it used to be major universities or schools or stuff like that. But nowadays, I mean, YouTube is an incredible source because you can jump on there and YouTube just about anything from fixing a pipe to paying your bills to starting a business, and it gives you tons of information, but you have to learn it. And we're in a stage of life right now where there's no lack of information. I mean, Harvard is putting classes online where you used to have to be the top of the top of the top and only the best and the brightest. And a lot of times the wealthiest people could only get access to this information. Nowadays, they stream it through iTunes University, and you can drop into a Harvard lecture and learn whatever those students are learning. So it's no access to it. You just have to go get it. So learn it. The second part is live it. You have to put it into practice. I've grown up in an industry where lots of people learn stuff and immediately go and start a training program on it or start teaching it from stage or something. And it's like, I read it in a book last week and I'm teaching it to you this week. And the problem is they've never actually applied it in their own life, and they've never gone through the ups, the downs, the lefts, the rights. They don't know what it's really like to go through the process. And so the challenge that they get stuck in is they've learned it and they're trying to give it or teach it, but they've never lived it. And that was the whole concept of the book we wrote a couple of years ago, which was Live It, and the whole concept of taking what you've learned and actually tangibly putting it into motion and action, and how that actually helps you get the results you really want. And a lot of times when you meet people who are achieving those extraordinary results, one of two things happens. Either they want more, or B, they look around and go, wow, I'd love to share this with someone I care about. And so the third piece is give it. So learn it, live it, give it. Once you figured out how to have the life you desire and deserve, take some time to pay it forward and share it with other people.
I love that. I love that. So jumping track entirely, Jared.
That was the best one sentence you've ever gotten, right?
Yeah, so a hell of a long sentence. A lot of commas in that sentence. Um, what is the single biggest misconception people have about you?
Um, I guess this is an interesting one. So a lot of people will throw out like it must be hard growing up the way you did, or it must be so great growing up the way you did, or what's it like growing up with your mom or your dad the way they are. And what's fascinating about all those questions is I think people do this a lot to everybody, where we have a misconception of who we believe they are based on what our observation is from the outside. And the truth is, people are like, what's it like having a dad like yours? And I always come back, I'm like, I don't know. What's it like having a dad like yours? Like, I've never had your dad. You've never had my dad. I don't know the difference, only because I haven't had another comparison to compare it to.
Right.
Now, as I get older, I realize there are differences. But I think the biggest misconception people have is something must have either been horribly difficult or incredibly easy in my life. And neither is true. There's been both. There's been really hard times. There's been really easy times. There's been really fun times, great advantages. There's been, huge obstacles to overcome, just like every human being on earth. So I think people, depending on how they know me or where they found me, have different perceptions of how things have gone for me. And the God honest truth is it's gone just about like everybody else. And, I've had my moments where I've made some really dumb decisions and landed up in a hospital bed being told I had 6 days left to live. And I've had my moments where, my family came together and helped make something possible I really wanted to do and was dreaming about doing. I've had my moments where I've gotten, the huge bill in the mail and gone, oh, shoot, and turned around and be like, hey, do you think you guys could help? And they're like, nope, you're on your own, figure it out. And I'm like, really? And all those are human. They're normal moments. There's things that people go through. And have I had every moment that every other person has had? No way. I'm not you either. So I haven't had what you've had. And I know you've gone through your ups and downs, and everyone has. So I think the misconception is people think life is a certain way because of whatever, circumstance they believe I've gone through or haven't. But the truth is we all have our ups or downs. We're all human. We've all gone through every type of moment that's out there. And there's a lot of truth in that piece. I think that's a big misconception.
I love that. I love that. So tying straight into that, well, when we talk about, or when I said in the intro about, learning like they give it, but also really about helping others to live a life of purpose, and or just being a performance coach. Let's go with that. Performance coach, so people can perform better, and people say, well, do what to succeed? I'm curious. What's your personal definition of success, Jairek?
It really goes back to that learn it, live it, give it concept. It's learning, it's sitting down and making a decision of how do you want life to be? And just deciding it on paper. Doesn't mean you're going to be right. Doesn't mean it's the only way to do it. Doesn't mean it's not going to change 10 years from now. It's just right now at this moment of your life, how do you want your life to be? Do you want to live on a rural, off the grid, natural, sustainable farm in the middle of the forest and have your own animals and just have this peaceful, high quality of life of just meditation every day and yoga in this blissful way? Do you want to live in a skyrise in New York City and run $1 billion hedge fund? Do you want to? What do you want to do? Do you want to be a movie star? Do you want to be an actor? Do you want to be a businessman or woman? Do you want to be an incredible parent? Like whatever that is you want to do, sit down and write it down and get very specific on exactly what it is that you absolutely want your life to be about and what you want to accomplish. The next piece is really following the same path. Learn what it takes to make that reality. Live it, fully apply everything you learn, test it out, make it work, and turn that into your freaking reality and look around and go, hey, this was on paper at one time, and now this is my literal day-to-day life now. I call that designing your ideal day or designing your ideal life. We talked about in our book is mapping that out, how you're going to live day-to-day life. And one key that I've learned that's really interesting, the key that I've learned is mapping out the type of day-to-day life where you take it away from the stuff you're trying to achieve and you make it more about how you want to live life. Because a lot of people say, and I had a client who showed up last year who said this. He has 5 businesses, and he's in North Carolina. He showed up, he said, listen, I want to double my income and work half the time. And I was like, okay, that's very specific. And we knew what all his numbers was, and we knew how he did it. And I'm like, but usually that's not correlated. That's not a standardly correlated path, meaning if you work less, you don't generally make more in whatever you're doing. But I said, if that's your goal, I said, well, what do you want to do with the spare time? And he says, actually, I've been working so hard. I want to spend more time with my kids. I want to spend more time with my family. And I want to take them places because my boys are young. I want to take them to the beach. I want to take them to the forest. I want to take them four-wheeling and driving around. I said, okay, great. I said, so we know what we're going to do with the time, and that's more important to him than sitting in an office working 5 more hours. Right. And I said, but we're going to have to optimize those hours you're working to make sure you get so much done that it frees up the time. And so we spent a year doing it. He did not double his income, but he went from, let's say rough figures, he went from like 500,000 in personal income to like 700,000 in personal income. So on the way to doubling it. And he worked literally, he took a 4 or 5 day vacation every single month of the year, if not 2 in 1 month, a couple times. And what's even crazier is one of his businesses, from one thing we did, made more revenue in 1 month of the year than the entire year before. All the revenue combined from 12 months, in 1 month, he wiped the floor with it in one business based on a couple of things we did. And so what's wild is the ability to help someone do that. The ability to help someone design the life they want, put a plan together, hold them accountable for it, put them through the process, really hold them to the fire and make sure they absolutely deliver. And there's a lot of days when it's snowing and cold and he's like, I really don't feel like getting up and doing this right now. I really don't feel like doing that. Or my kid threw up all night. I didn't sleep. And we hold him to the fire. We make him do what he committed to. And by doing it, he looks back. He grew in all the ways he wanted to grow. He was able to live the life he really wanted to live. And in the end, he did better than he's ever done before. That kind of process is learning what it takes, absolutely living it. And the fun part now is he's on the board of a few different organizations in his city. He shares with them just his own experience. And when I say give it or pay it forward, I don't mean tell people the 5 golden pillars of success according to you. What I mean is share with them what worked for you. And if it works for them, wonderful. And if it doesn't, oh well, maybe they take a couple golden nuggets from it and go use those. But just pay it forward and let people know what's working so that other people can jump in and figure it out.
So let's dive into that. Well, actually, first of all, let's do the mid-live session interrupt. I can see who's looking at the screen. Tom, you're not looking at the screen. Imran, you're not looking at the screen. Paul, pay attention. I could keep going down the list, but I just want to make sure you're with me because you're about to miss out on something that could change your whole life. So, Jairek, I remember a thing you mentioned in your last answer that I want to make sure we dive in on. Let's get really practical or illustrate it with a practical example.
Sure.
You talked about the ideal day. I remember one time when I was out in Tampa on business. I think I was in Orlando, but I think I traveled over to Tampa, or maybe you came over to Orlando. I don't remember which way around it was. And you came over with our mutual friend Topher and your lovely wife. We went to dinner together. Amanda was your date, and I guess Topher Morrison was my date. But we had this great conversation about creating your ideal morning routines. Because I'm obsessed with this. And I've got a reference, Jairek, which maybe you disagree with this, but I doubt it. I'd be curious to hear your perspective that most high achievers have specific morning routines to set themselves up for the day. So I'm curious, what principle, if you see that correlation, what principles or common threads there are amongst high achievers? But specifically, Jairek, I mean, what does your morning routine look like? What does your first hour of the day look like?
Sure. So there's a couple pieces of that question that are really important. It's something we talked about before we went live on the webinar here, which is the concept of high performance. And there's certain key elements of high performance that are necessary to get any human being to perform at their best, including what you do in the morning, what you do at night, and what you do throughout the day. There's certain key things that are necessary for someone to perform at their absolute best. I'll start with the basics just because it's very easy to see this. We did a Facebook Live on this yesterday, and the concept of the basics is, number one, you need to maximize your sleep. And I know a lot of people listening, especially if you're a business entrepreneur, are going to roll your eyes and be like, really? Sleep a little more? I thought I'm supposed to sleep less and chase my dreams. And the God honest truth is there's a book called Sleep Smarter by a good friend of mine, Sean Stevenson. And it's not an epiphany book of one day I realized I needed more sleep and that helped my business. It's literally all the latest, most up-to-date research on the topic itself from all the major universities showing exactly what this does to your mind and body. If you're a woman who happens to work night shifts, you're like 60% more likely to get breast cancer, and other forms of ailments in your body, because you're messing with the natural cycles of life that keep your body healthy, how your body replenishes itself, how it rebuilds itself, how it repairs itself, all the things that happen when you sleep. And it shows you through research how this all adds up. So to cut this short, sweet, and simple, he says 7.5 to 8 hours of sleep for the average human being is the optimum of what you're looking for. I realize I'm related to a guy who says, sleep less, earn more, work harder. I only need 4 or 5, 6 hours of sleep. And you hear all this crazy shit. I get it. And everyone has their own way of doing it. I'm just saying, based on science and research, the most up-to-date stuff, it's 7.5 to 8 hours, if not more, if done properly. There's a second element to this that'll massively determine the quality of your sleep, because it's not just time. You not only need sleep, you need deep sleep.
Oh, so Jairek, I was going to interrupt and say, help me. You're going to change my life right now, and I don't care who listens into it, because as the father of 3 young children who are all sick at the moment, I'm going. I do it tracking on my Fitbit, my sleep quality, and you know what? I'm under in terms of number of hours, but I'm also aware sometimes I can get the same number of hours, but the quality is terrible, and I'm going, oh my! Like right now, people can see me on video. I'm looking quite tired. Because I'm like, yeah,
you are,
and I am, and I'm gonna go in. And when like tonight, I don't have my children because they don't live with me all the time. They're with mum right now tonight. But sometimes there's no correlation. I'll be like, oh, I'm really tired. I need to go to sleep, and then I'll wake up and I'll be beat. And I've been trying various things, and it's not been working. Jairek, help me, save my life.
Okay, so I'll mail you the book Sleep Smarter by my friend Sean Stevenson to start with. There's 21 different tactical things you can do, everything between buying blackout blinds for your windows to different scents and smells you can put in your room. There's the different plants you can get. I think it's snake grass and something ivy. These plants literally release oxygen at night, so you have more oxygen in your room to breathe. You're going to want an air filter to get all the mold pores and all the crap pores in the air quality in your room better. A little lavender spray. You're going to want to grab some magnesium. I think it's called Ease, like it's a blue bottle, it says Ease on it, and it's magnesium spray. You spray it over your heart 4 times, and then under any place that's sore, it's going to help you sleep better. I was just hanging out with a friend of mine who is the health advisor and for one of the co-founders of PayPal. I'll leave his name out, but he's the health advisor for him, medical advisor, and he was showing me how magnesium is wonderful, and there's certain things you can get at a medical grade that you put on your body and you sleep better than you've ever slept before in your freaking life. Yeah. Also, speaking of sleeping, there's something you asked me about, which is the morning routine. One of the best ways to get the best quality sleep is to get up in the morning, get outside in the sunlight first thing when the sun's rising, and get your hardcore exercise in, because it kicks off your hormonal and neurological cycles that starts to build the melatonin into your nervous system, so that by the time it comes to evening, it naturally puts you to sleep because of the cycles of your hormones and neurotransmitters going on in your body. Also, for people, there's certain foods you can eat that have tryptophan in it. When you're eating that food, it's going to help your body go to sleep. Tryptophan's the stuff in turkey. That's why on Thanksgiving you eat a bunch of turkey, all of a sudden you feel like passing out afterwards, because the food, there's a lot of other foods that naturally have it in it. You can put those towards the later evening or afternoon or dinner, and those things will knock you out in a freaking heartbeat. So there's lots of stuff you can do, but like I'm saying, you need to optimize that. Now, when you have small children, I guarantee that is one of the biggest factors for entrepreneurial men and women. When they first have their child, within the first 6 months, I guarantee their life is flipped on its head. That's why this stuff becomes absolutely critical to practice and build into your daily life. And I know every single person, if they're a high-end entrepreneur or an executive or something like that, they'll roll their eyes and go, okay, sleep more, big fella, thanks for the advice. But I guarantee you're screwing it up. Almost guaranteed. And there's a lot of people right now targeting it because it's so freaking important long run. Arianna Huffington just wrote a book about it too. I recommend Sean's books more just because it's more based on research and science, and I like that. But she wrote a book because she was working so hard to make her $200 million or $400 million sale of, HuffPost to Time Warner or AOL back then. And she woke up with her head passed out on a desk with blood coming out of her mouth because sleep exhaustion. And so that concept of you need to fuel your body. So sleep, nutrition. So what'll determine, you probably could sleep 7 hours or 7.5 hours if you properly combine your food and you have high quality nutrition, which I know you do, but most people don't. Most people settle for this. And I'll tell people it's not only eating the right thing, it's eating the right thing at the right time. And it makes such a difference.
So give me an
I can show you a
example.
picture.
Give me an example of eating the right thing at the right time, or what would be an example of eating the right thing at the wrong time, and now it messes you up.
Sure. So let's say you're going to eat, and it depends on what you're eating for. But let's say you're just alkalized, a healthy, energy rich diet. So lots of veggies and a little bit of fish is your protein. And so that's what you're eating. And let's say you eat that meal and you're going to go to bed at 10 o'clock. You're going to wake up at 6 in the morning and you eat that meal at 9:30. Right thing, wrong time, totally going to jack up your sleep cycle. Meaning you're going to have to sleep longer and wake up tired because your body's digesting food all night and you're going to feel exhausted in the morning. And so right thing, wrong time. You need to eat 3 hours before bed. Also, let's say you decide to do you're running marathons and you want some pastas for some, carb fuel, and that's your way of doing it. And that's, people say that's a good thing. So you load up, you carb load, you throw in a little piece of salmon with it to be healthy and lean. The problem is mixing those two together, it's now going to take 13 hours to digest versus 3 hours to digest. So even if you eat it at 7 p.m., 3 hours before bed at 10 o'clock, it's going to take 13 hours or 12 hours to digest. So your body's not going to sleep. Right thing, wrong time, and wrong mix. So you got to eat the right thing at the right time in the right mix to get it actually to produce well. This is the equivalent. If you're driving a Ferrari or an Indy car in the Indy 500 or the Monaco Grand Prix, and I come over and I throw a little bit of oil in your gas tank, just to mix it up. It's fuel, it works. And I throw a little gas in your oil cap. What happens? Your car will blow up. Like, you're sure as shit not going to win the race. Or let's say I put a little bit of air in your gas tank as well. Just throw some air in there. It'll jack up your fuel line. Right. But we do that with our body and go, oh, it's just food. No, who cares? I'll be fine.
And even if it's not catastrophic, like if it doesn't cause a total failure, it's certainly not going to give you maximum performance, and consequently, that's going to have a cascading effect to everything else literally that you do.
Yep. I'll tell you one of the easiest patterns to see. If you ever feel like eating shitty, sugary ice cream, cookies, candies before bed or late at night, it's because you didn't sleep well enough and long enough the night before. Because in the last cycle of your sleep, sugar makes its way all the way up to the frontal lobe of your brain. And so in the later parts of the day, if you have not had the deep sleep and the quality sleep, the sugar's not there. Therefore, your body starts reaching for sugary foods to try to get sugar straight up to your brain as fast as possible. But the problem is you eat the shit food. Now you're going to have trouble going to bed. You're going to have trouble sleeping. The next morning, you're going to feel tired. You're going to repeat the process and go down a spiral real fast. Right. And it happens. There's not a room I haven't spoken that I asked how many people had some type of sugar craving last night and how many people the night before didn't sleep well. And all of them were like, And it's easy to see this stuff. So we're looking for maximum performance and optimal living here. So sleeping, nutrition, and the final one is movement. I remember I was telling this story yesterday, and the whole concept around movement. I remember at one point I was waking up, doing my morning routine, which I'm going to answer your question in a moment. But I was doing my morning routine, which involved a mile of jogging and walking and breathing and all this other stuff. I was doing lifting weights for an hour, and then I would go to yoga in the late afternoon. And I was like, dude, I must be crushing it in my health. And I remember picking up one of these little Fitbit bands, a motion tracker, and hearing that the average person to stay healthy and continue to become more healthy needs at least 10,000 steps a day, according to, I think it's the Mayo Clinic or one of those, Johns Hopkins University, something like that. And I remember reading that and thinking, I must be killing it in the steps. And I remember pulling it up after a week of doing it, looking at it, and my average steps per day was only 4,000 steps.
Wow.
And I grew up in a household that average is an insult. Right. And so the concept of the average person should be doing 10,000 steps a day to be getting continuously healthier. And I was only doing 4,000. I was 6,000, 60% off the average. I was like, this is horrible. And I couldn't figure it out. And I realized I wasn't even moving as much as I thought I was. And for most busy entrepreneurs, we do the same thing. We throw a little, movement tracker on them. We have them go out and move all week long, and I track them, and I can see it on my app so they can't lie to me because I can see how much they're moving. And I know when they strap it to their fucking dog because it goes crazy. No, I'm just kidding. But
hey, Jairek, I'm going to say, look, I'm stepping, Jairek. Look, you can't really see that on the camera. I'm nearly at 12,000 for today, okay? And when the day's not done.
There you go.
Don't, and actually, it might be a side tangent. I want to make sure we get back to the morning routine question, but
Yep.
I love Fitbit. And I'm not saying that everybody on here this needs a Fitbit, but the reason why I love
I'm
it
a huge
is
fan.
it
Huge fan.
it keeps you accountable. So like right here, there's a little competition that I'm having with members of my team for who's doing the most steps this week. So right now you can see that Shelley from our office, she's beating me. I'm second. She's done 43,000 steps yesterday and today so far, and I've only done 37,000. Well, that kind of ticks me off. So I'm going to get out there once we're done, Jairek, and I'm going to pound the pavement and get some more steps in, right? And I love it because it holds you accountable, and what you measure gets managed, and what managed improves. So I suppose either go off on the tangent about why accountability is important, or bring us forward back to
The morning routine.
the morning routine.
That
And I'll grab my
the
water so I can be hydrated while you give me the answer to that question.
Make sure you track it. One thing we found with the steps is when you can get yourself in community with other people. So exactly what you said. I have a community. I invite some of my clients, some of my friends. We have this one lady named Emily who walks 100,000 steps a week, and she has a full-time desk job.
Wow.
So that blows my mind because I don't understand how the hell she does it.
That's big.
We tease her all the time. She must strap it to her damn dog and play catch at night. But literally, though, she just takes her dog for a walk early in the morning. She does a walk at lunch, and then she does a long walk at night with her puppy and takes them out, and she gets 100,000 steps a week in 5 days. It's remarkable. She aims for 20,000 steps a day. And so that's twice as much as the average person's supposed to do to stay optimally healthy and continue to be healthy.
An average, that's misleading, Jared, because my understanding is 10,000 is what's recommended. Yeah. That's not the average. The average is significantly less.
I know. I just raised the standard and set a different standard in people's mind of what the average person needs to aim for.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, you are right, though. So average is normally way less than that. And if you're doing way, way less than that, you're normally in trouble. I have a few clients who own multiple businesses. They're doing very well in all these other areas of life. And we started tracking them, and they're getting like 2,500 steps a day. I was like, dude, that's the equivalent of leading you straight to your deathbed faster than you imagine. Right. You're going to have all the money in the world, a great relationship. You're going to have all this cool shit, and you're famous in your world and all this other jazz, and you're literally going to be dead.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's going to suck. And hopefully whoever, gets it all is going to do something good with it. Or you're going to figure out how to get your butt up and moving and be healthy. And it's easy to correlate these three together. What's interesting, this is the base level stuff. Because Once you have the base level, now you've got to work on mental clarity. Now you got to work on state management, meaning can you keep yourself focused focused or relaxed versus tense? Can you do that through tracking your breathing throughout the day? We have a little device we use for that. And then finally from there, do you have a life purpose? If you go up the hierarchy of needs with Maslow, that concept, so once you've measured the basics, can you measure the more useful, tangible stuff like state management, mind, mental clarity, stuff like that? And then from there, self-actualization. Do you have a purpose? Do you find meaning in what you do? Do you have your ideal day? Are you living it? That stuff like that. So we work up that pyramid with our clients and help them maximize every level. And it's easy to see, though, when they miss out on something of the basics, everything falls apart that fast. Going back to the ideal day, you can see behind me, there's a treadmill desk. I think you can kind of see it. There's a treadmill desk back there, and there's some vision boards up on top of it, and the room is surrounded by things that inspire me. I don't know which way those posters are showing, if you can read them or if they're backwards in the camera.
Yep, you did not wake up to be mediocre, Jairek. Sorry, I could say that. That's right. You did not wake up to be mediocre, Jairek. Now get your butt moving. Sorry, it's getting late.
That's right. And so around me, one thing that's important in your morning routine is to surround yourself with an environment that inspires you. Everything here inspires me in some way, shape, or form, whether it's these little posters my wife makes. We have a sales training site called buynowbitches.com. It's a little bit aggressive, very edgy, but it creates some badass stuff.
Buynowbitches.com.
That's right. I bought it as a joke URL, and my wife turned it into a sales training website, and it's actually awesome.
That's hilarious. Oh, special hats off to Imran, who says, I'm on my treadmill listening to this right now. Well done, Imran.
There you go.
So I got to jump in. I know I'm taking you away from the morning routine, but it kind of relates. I heard a great thing recently. I forget the guy's name. I think he was an interviewee on the Tim Ferriss show, and says success in life is to be found in cliches. And his point was, people say that, will dismiss things that are cliche, like, oh yeah, you need to eat more fruits and vegetables, you need to drink more water, and therefore they dismiss it, when actually it's like, no, that's the basics. The reason why it's cliche is because it's true. If you eat lots of fruits and vegetables, if you sleep more, if you drink more water, and you're right, people might listen and go, well, that's not new, Jairek. Thanks for helping me out, buddy. But the fact is, it's like, yeah, if you don't have that, you've got no foundation on which to build these advanced strategies. So I love that.
Exactly. And the reason we start with the basics is because nowadays so many people screw this up. I mean, if you just ask someone, hey, where does your cell phone sleep? And they go, excuse me? And be like, 9 times out of 10, I'm guessing it's in your bed or on your nightstand. And according to research, within moments of waking up, there's usually within, I think it's 27 seconds, people have their cell phone in front of their face. Right. 27 seconds within waking up. Now, what's interesting, depending on the light spectrum and color spectrum that's coming out of your phone, it's messing up your sleep cycles and your melatonin. I remember when my wife and I first got together, I have a rule that all technology goes off at night, and we shut everything down, everything off. We dim the lights. We make it, there's a salt lamp up here that like that warm orangish color, magenta type color. And there's light therapy and actual research that shows a magenta color stimulates deep, warm, fond, comfortable memories in the mind, just like it's warm memories of being like in the womb. So what happens is we turn our entire room or house this warm magenta color with salt rock lamps which emit negative ions. We also do it with Hue, the light system by Philips, that then we can change the color of the lights and make it all magenta, that warm color. And what happens is our body starts to prepare to relax, feel comforted, feel warm, feel cozy. So we have this really warm, amazing night's sleep, and we prepare ourselves for it. So part of having that amazing morning routine is having an amazing evening routine. And most of the time, there's a paddle right there, if you see it, that was given to me by the Special Forces unit of the Air Force when I went and did a training for them. And one thing we found out when they hired me to come in, it was pretty interesting because they hired me to come in and talk to them about maximizing performance. And I was like, really? These guys? Like, these guys are strong enough to fight like Navy SEALs and Army Rangers and those guys, and smart enough to be a full-on field surgeon, meaning in their backpack, like your leg could fall off, the guy could run up to you under heavy fire with shit blowing up and being shot everywhere, take his backpack off and put you back together and then evacuate out of there. And many times the mission of this group is to fight their way in to save you, fight their way out with you, and perform surgery in motion while saving your ass from the middle of hellfire in the middle of nowhere. So I'm supposed to talk to these guys about performance? Right. Are you shitting me? Like, please. I mean, I'm sure there's little stuff I can help fine tune in them, like most of our clients, where it's like, okay, like, let's get you to sleep a little better, let's get you to eat a little better, or more on time, or stuff like that. There's little stuff, but overall, I don't know really what to share with them. Like, they're the best of the best on earth at what they do. It's pretty unique. And so I sat down and I researched and I learned about them, and I finally saw something that I went, ooh, this is a key consistent pattern in high performers that I noticed across the board. And it exists in entrepreneurs, it exists in parents, it exists in all of them. If you're a real high performer, a lot of times you're amazing at turning on and going into everything you want to accomplish. You're not so good at turning it off. Right. And all of a sudden I saw a pattern. And the pattern was these guys had great morning routines, ways to get amped up, ways to get fired up, ways to get ready for the day, ways to kick ass, ways to conquer what they're doing. They had really shit evening routines, meaning they didn't even have one. They had no transition routine to say, hey, my work, my mission has ended today. And now I'm doing something physically, mentally, emotionally to transition out of my mission or work day and into my life, family, spirituality, relaxation, all these other areas of life. They had no ritual. And so to have that perfect morning routine or ideal morning routine, you need to have a badass evening routine. Meaning, right now, if you're watching or listening, grab a pen and paper, figure out when your cutoff time is. Mine's normally around like 6:37-ish. And there's a cutoff time. At your cutoff time, say, I'm going to stop right there. But what are you going to actively go do? Not passively, but actively go do to transition out of your workday or mission. Now, some of my clients give you examples. On their drive home, there's a little bit like a lake, a park with a lake in it. They'll stop, get out, walk once around the lake, and during their walk will flood their mind with everything they're grateful for about their kids, their wife, their family, their friends, their life, their health, everything. They'll just flood their body with gratitude so they feel connected. And then specifically, according to Stanford research, if you think of someone or something you're grateful for, and then identify 5 key attributes about them or it helps deepen the emotional experience of that gratitude. So let's say I'm very grateful for my health. Now, why am I grateful for my health? Because my heart beats 100,000 times a day without me having to do a thing. I can see the world around me, and it's pretty freaking gorgeous right now. I can feel these different things, and they'll get more specific and feel it, or people they're grateful for. Now, in that moment, they're starting to transition all the space mentally of all the stuff that has to happen tomorrow, the email they got before they left the office, the person who did or didn't come through in time, the business order that is or isn't working, all this shit that's in their head. They're pushing it out by, there's something called your mental spotlight, which is, according to researchers, there's only so much cognitive space you can mentally focus on at any given time. Now, this is old NLP stuff, but it's also brand new research. There's a lady named Jane McGonigal who uses video games to help people heal. And one thing she found is the most painful medical thing you can go through is when they have to redo your dressings on a deep, like 4th, 5th degree or 3rd, 4th degree burn. When they have to clean your burn, that's the most painful, excruciating, painful thing you have to go through. And so they use morphine on these people, and they still feel pain. And they figured out that by using virtual reality headsets and giving them a cognitively tasking thing to focus their mind on, it lessens the pain by over 40% more than even morphine does in their body.
Wow.
40% more effective than morphine. And they don't even give them any drugs. They just have them play this game with virtual reality and clog their mental spotlight with so much task that they have no room to feel the pain. And therefore, their pain receptors still work, but their mind doesn't feel it. Therefore, their body doesn't feel it. And so the same concept. If your mind is flooded with all this shit from the day, you have to clog your mind with all the good stuff. So what you're grateful for, what you're excited about, all your goals and dreams and desires, the people you love, the situations you love, your favorite moments from this year, your favorite moments with the people you love and care about. And when you flood that spotlight so thick, there's no room for anything else to exist. You push out all the other shit, and now you become present to the moment. The other thing you want to do, something like, I always did yoga. And I like hot yoga with music because I can't stand slow yoga with no music. It annoys the shit out of me. And the guy who yells at me to straighten my fucking leg in Bikram, I almost knocked him off his damn box. It's probably why I need more yoga in my life. But I like active yoga with freaking music where I can sweat and feel it, and it's energizing. So there was a place in San Diego I used to go to, and I'd go at 5 o'clock every day. And this was my transition ritual out of the day because it felt amazing. And it really was. I'd sweat my face off. I'd stretch out my body, get limber. I'd clear my mind, and now I would be ready to be present for the love of my life and for life itself. So that concept. And when you're able to do that, it's much easier to wind down at night, to get the sleep you want, to have the quality rest. At that point, now we get to the final question you've asked, which is the freaking morning routine. So what do you do in the morning to charge yourself up? According to a couple new authors, I forget the name of the book. I have it downstairs. It's a book written about the fact that there's different sleeping styles, and they've done research on this and figured out that there's a handful of different styles of sleeping patterns, and there's different personalities. Do you happen to know what it's called?
No, I don't. That sounds fascinating. I haven't heard of different sleeping styles. Okay, so yeah. How does that relate?
So I'll tell you 2 of them that I do know, because one's my wife and one's myself. The one I do know is I'm a bear. And a bear sleeps really deeply, is hard to wake up during the night, and in the morning, I need some type of ramping up mentally, emotionally, physically to get myself ready for the day. Like a bear coming out of hibernation. Like, you got to shake it out, you got to clear your mind, you got to like warm up for the day and then go. My wife is a lion. So she sleeps really well, and then literally the moment her eyes open, she's like go, and like gone, doing everything all at once, 50 miles an hour. And so that's different personality types. You have to know who you are. And self-awareness is really important in this concept. You have to know what style of sleeper you are, because it's going to determine the style of morning routine you're going to have. And if you're married to someone or with someone, you're going to have to make sure you understand their sleeping style. Because if she wakes up and she's like, let's go, 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 and I'm like, whoa, what's wrong with you? Like, why you got so much energy? Chill out. I'm going to need a few moments to warm into the day. And for her, she's like, come on, why are you just lying there? Let's go. Like, let's do something. And it's the concept. You have to know who you're with as well, but you have to know yourself first. So knowing I'm a bear, I need a warm-up progression into the day. So what does that look like? Handful of things. Number one, I'll throw this out there. I always start off with 3 rounds of Wim Hof breathing. And if you're not familiar with Wim Hof, it's Wimhof. It's a gentleman who holds the multiple world records for swimming in just a pair of shorts underneath icebergs. Wow. He has the longest distance swimming under icebergs. He's run a marathon in just a pair of shorts above the Arctic Circle line, or above the freeze line. He's hiked up to the base of Everest just in a pair of shorts. He's done Kilimanjaro all the way up in a pair of shorts in the shortest amount of time. He has the longest standing record of being packed in ice. According to my friend at Stanford Research, he runs the neuroscience lab at Stanford, they're measuring him right now to figure out what the hell is going on and how he's doing this. And one of the most recent documented studies they've done of him, he's been able to push out bacterial disease in his body successfully just by doing a breathing technique and cold immersion. And they said, oh, he's an anomaly. They injected live E. coli into his body, and he pushed it right out with 0 side effects. And they said, oh, he must be an anomaly. So 30 people volunteered, went through a 5-day training with him, and at the end of 5 days, all 30 of them got the E. coli, and all 30 of them successfully pushed it out of their body using the breathing and cold technique. And it's scientifically documented. It's being published pretty soon in some journals. It's wild. And so I start out with this breathing technique because there's also another side effect that happens. It's something called super performance mentally, which is you want your adrenaline to pump into your body with no stress. So normally adrenaline and stress are correlated, meaning when you fight or flight, something scares you, you go, and then your adrenaline kicks in, and now all of a sudden you hit super performance, but you have stress, which will break you and tear you down as far as the cortisol is concerned, too long. Too much stress exposure will break your body down. So this is a way to activate this super performance concept, which is doing this breathing technique. It's really simple. You can Google Wim Hof, and there's a million examples on YouTube of people showing you how to do the breathing. And there's also a big disclaimer: don't do it in water, don't do it while driving, don't do it where you could pass out and hurt somebody. The book is called The Power of Win by Dr. Breus, B-R-E-U-S, is the topic of sleeping. Thank you for that, James. So the concept of
chimed in and said WimHofMethod.com, apparently.
There you go. So for Wim Hof, start off with the breathing. So 3 rounds of Wim Hof breathing, activate that super performance. Next, I jump in and I use a headband. It's in the other room, but it's called Muse. And what it does is it tracks base level EEG, so base level brain waves basically, as well as bio markers, which is your body temperature and movement. And it tracks the combination of those and gives you auditory feedback on how well you're able to clear your mind at will. So I want to activate super performance in my mind and body, get that adrenaline pumping and kicked in. I want to then be able to clear my mind and have, tabula rasa, clear slate to start the day. So completely clear out any thoughts or emotions or feelings or anything out of my mind, ideally for 10 minutes, ideally 80% or more calm, meaning I was able to clear my mind and keep it cleared and completely calm for over 8 minutes out of the 10 with 0 thoughts coming in. Ideally, you want to get up to a place of 30 to 40, maybe even 60 minutes where you can clear your mind and have 0 thoughts or reactions in your body for that entire 60-minute period of time. It'll change your entire life to be able to do that mindfulness.
And the auditory cues is biofeedback, presumably. It's kind of giving you stimulation for when you're on track or on track. How is that different? And the only reason I ask is because I think I don't know Muse, but I think I've done something similar, which I first learned about through your dad, actually, with heart math, as heart rate variability. And for me, that's been huge. As part of my morning routine is to do heart math. Is it similar? Is Muse better, or is it just different?
Different. So heart math is working on, I believe, your heart rhythm. This one's
Heart rate
working on your
variability.
brain. So heart rate variability, and the combination of both of them becomes optimal. So if you can do your heart rate variability where you do, and what you want to start doing is training specific states of being. So with heart rate variability, if you can train calm, then you can train excited, then you can train relaxed, then you can train, passionate or whatever you want to call it. And you can purposefully move your heart rate through breath control through all of those. That's very powerful. Now you want to take that and you want to now go after your brain waves. Brain waves meaning like you can control your heart rate variability and still have something go through your mind of like, oh, potato salad, that'd be nice later today. And your mind is not clear. There's still shit fumbling around in your head. You can't do that with Muse. And just like with Muse, you can't really control your heart rate variability. So they're both useful and both awesome. So the heart rate variability stuff with heart math is amazing. Muse is just another way to do it, but it's focused on mental clarity. So the reason I'm going after mental clarity is because really busy entrepreneurs tend to have a hard time clearing their mind,
Right.
having total
That's why
singular
they
focus.
can't switch off, I guess, in the evening. Right? They've got stuff swimming around.
Exactly. So if you're strengthening the
I
muscle
mean, not
every
me.
morning,
I'm perfectly a perfect yogi, but those other people listening.
exactly. And that's the whole thought process. If you're strengthening your mindset muscle in the morning, clarity of mind, by the time you get to the evening, you already have a strong muscle you've built and you can purposely clear your mind. One of the number one reasons people say they have trouble falling asleep is their mind is filled with so many thoughts and they just can't get them to stop. And you just have a weak muscle of clearing your mind. And therefore, if you could do heart rate variability and clear it through focusing on your breath and heart math, if you can do Muse and focus on just clearing your mind at will, both are incredibly useful and tactical. So I use Muse. From there, I'll get up, go to the bathroom, get ready, come into my office, which is right here. And it's an environment where the entire room surrounding me is something that energizes me. Meaning, up here, I have all kinds of artifacts from around the world and things I've done and places I've gone and people I've helped and situations I've been in. And all of these things remind me of things I've accomplished, places I've gone, people I've helped, awesome opportunities I've been a part of, things that fuel me mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And there's those dream boards, which are up there behind me. I have 3 of them up on that piece up there. And so up there, I literally walk. And while I'm walking on my treadmill, I start off with deep breathing. A good friend of mine, Navy SEAL Mark Devine, he talks about box breathing. It's a way that he was able to take control of his state when he was going through SEAL training or the BUDS program and come out top of his class. And he used box breathing to get through some of the hardest and most painful moments. My dad has always taught, breath walking, which he learned from a yogi a long time ago, which is matching your breath with your steps so that you get a rhythmic meditation or movement meditation. Right. So whatever way you want to do it, just lots of breathing, and it alkalizes your body when you get all that oxygen in your body. So lots of breathing with your movement. After that, I always go through gratitude. I've heard it said by someone pretty cool that when you're grateful, you're rich. When you flood your mind with gratitude, there's no space for fear. There's no space for worry. There's no space for frustration. Literally, I flood my mind and body with gratitude so I can fill up my mental spotlight with all the things I'm grateful for. Then from there, I start focusing on my long-term goals. So I have visions up there, little pictures and images and words that represent my 20-year vision for my life, my 10-year vision for my life, my 5-year vision for my life, my 1-year goals for my life, my 6-month goals for my life. I break it all the way down to this month's outcomes, all the way to this week's outcomes, and the daily outcomes that I've written out in my journals. And from there, I read them all aloud. So I'll start off with my 20-year vision for my life. I'm so grateful 20 years from now, my health and fitness is stronger than ever before. At 50 years old, I'm healthier and stronger than the majority of 20-year-olds in the world. So grateful that emotionally, I'm passionate about my life, living on purpose and enjoying every single moment life has to offer. So grateful we're passionately in love. I love and passion for each other goes daily. When we're together, anything is possible. These concepts are driven into my nervous system again and again and again to keep my mind laser focused on where I want to go, because I'm ramping up and gaining momentum so that by the time the day starts, I'm at full freaking throttle going into that day. And I do not know another human being who hasn't gone through this process that literally, when they've done these things and they're ramped up like this, doesn't crush every goal they have over time. I know lots of people who don't do this shit and they struggle with achieving their goals, but the ones I know that do it, they just conquer life. And people are like, oh, lucky for them. It's like, it's not luck, bro. There's a pattern, and there's shit they do every single day that makes them that kind of person. Now, it can differ person to person. If you happen to be a different personality type and you have a different, you'd rather do yoga and meditation in the morning, do it as long as it ramps you up and amps you up for life. If you'd rather go do an ice bath like Wim Hof style and that gets you going, do it. But know yourself and know what activates you as a human being. That's what I'm aiming for here. What activates me is this process.
Right. That's fantastic. Jairek, I want to be respectful, people, because technically we're out of time. And guys, I know people have got lots of comments and questions that I'm not going to get a chance to cover. But if you bombard me, send us an email, I'll collect them together and I'll harass Jairek and give him send him a lot of email invites, and maybe we can persuade him to come back on again. So, Jairek, there's two final questions, but because we've got less than 60 seconds to go, it's high-speed answers only. The next one on my list was, what are your favorite or your top 3 books that you would most recommend that people listening to this should read?
Well, I'm just going to start off with one of my favorites. It's called Breeding Gazelles. It's an author you probably haven't heard of, but Dan Bradbury is the guy who wrote it. You should definitely check this bad boy out. It talks about more revenue, more profit, more time. It's just a hardcore, badass book you definitely want to check out. Some of my favorites that are out right now, Happiness Advantage, Habit. Someone asked in the live feed, how do you quit smoking? You don't quit smoking, you replace smoking. And if you want to read a book to teach you how to do that, it's called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. Happiness Advantage. What else is up there? Tools of Titans I'm reading right now from Tim. He always has great information. It's pretty useful.
Hold on. Down here, here's one I created earlier.
Nice.
It's a bit worn and battered. I read it this weekend. I'm in the last kind of 100 pages. It's being finished.
There you go.
As my wind down routine after we finish this webinar.
There you go. I'll also add in Live It or Vevlo if you want to do it in Spanish. Not sure which way you want to go. Live It, Achieve Success by Living with Purpose. The other ones I'll throw out there that are some of my favorites. The Alchemist. My dad has a new book that's coming out called Unshakable. It's awesome. It's really preparing people that if a financial crash happens, how to maximize during those moments. I think it was the Kennedys that had like $10 million or $30 million in net worth, and by the end of the Great Depression had $130 million in net worth. So he has a book showing how to maximize those moments. That's coming out soon. What else? Amazing Development of Men by Alison Armstrong. If you're a man, you have to read this book. And if you're interested in men or dating men or married to a man, definitely read the book.
Amazing Development of Men.
Yep.
Great. I love it. All right, so Jairek, last question. And I'm busy trying to make notes of all the things that I want to...
Old Mill Raising, you're welcome.
Research. Or so the final question, Jairek, if people have loved this interview, they want to find out more about you, what you do, how can they get in touch?
Google me. Probably the easiest way. Just go to Google, type in Jairek space Robbins. It'll pull up everything you need to know about us from our main website, our Facebook, Twitter, everything like that. If you're someone who's interested in performance and you like helping other people maximize their performance and you have that in your heart and soul, or you do it already through fitness training, or you manage and run a business, you own a company, or someone who's interested in becoming a coach itself, the piece you can jump in on is performancecoachuniversity.com. And if you're looking to increase your performance at work, we have a free online training that runs each day that'll show you 3 things you can do to instantly increase your performance as far as tactical, tangible things at the office. So go check that out. Google me. Join us on Facebook. Join us on Twitter, Facebook Live, Instagram, all those places. We'd love to have you.
Guys, and I just want to give my full endorsement behind it. I've known Jairek for many years. At the end of the day, if you want to enhance your own performance, but if you're listening to this podcast, chances are you've got a team, you've got employees, and as your business grows, you're going to need to expand that team. One of, if not the most critical skill you can learn as a business leader, in my opinion, is how to get the best performance out of that team that you've got. So make sure you check out Jairek and check out the Performance Coach University. So, Mr. Jairek Robbins, all that leaves me to say is, sir, thank you very, very much for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you for having me on.
Great. Thanks, guys. And thank you. Thanks for the messages that are coming on, even though they're not really aimed at me. They're aimed at you, Jairek. But great podcast, great webinar, best I've attended in months. Thanks, guys. So, Jairek Robbins, Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.